For all the fear-mongering and panic about 2024 polling, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, we have a new poll, a quality poll from Morning Consult, which shows that Joe Biden has opened up a lead within the margin of error, admittedly, over Donald Trump. This story is less about the particulars of this poll, although we will look at the poll, but more about the approach that I think we need to have. And in general, it would be more useful for media to have about polling relative to the way that it is all being discussed. So here is the new poll. This is a Morning Consult poll tracking the 2024 presidential election. Among all voters, Biden 43, Trump 42. Now, very important here. 11% say they will be voting for someone else. And then 5% say they don't yet know who they will be voting for. The entire election, as we are 11 months out, could potentially rest on that 16% that's in the middle. 11 and 5, 16% total. Now, among some other groups, I do think it's interesting to see 84% of Democrats say they plan to vote for Joe Biden. It looks like 11% are either planning on voting for someone else or don't know. Among independents, Trump is +4. And among Republicans, Trump has 86% of the vote. Also, potentially a sign of trouble, 83% of those who voted for Biden last time say they will vote Biden again, whereas 86% of those who voted Trump last time say they will vote for Trump again. So if you want to have the most concerning possible interpretation of this, it would be it's going to be close, but it's looking like Republicans are leaning towards Trump a little more than Democrats are leaning towards Biden. And Biden's voters from 2020 are not leaning towards him quite as much as those who voted for Trump in 2020 are leaning. I'm going to be super honest with you. I struggle to look at this and to be super, super worried. And I'll tell you why. Historically, when the economy is solid by the metrics we all now are familiar with, the incumbent president gets reelected. When Trump officially becomes the nominee, he's not even officially the nominee yet. He almost certainly will be. When Trump officially becomes the nominee, I expect that a ton of the Biden voters who aren't sure what they'll do in 2024 are going to say, oh, no, we're not going back to Trump. And they will become solid Biden voters. I expect that many independents, 20% of whom right now say they're voting for someone else and 11% don't know. If just a few percent of those, once Trump becomes the nominee, say, not again, not under my watch, they are going to vote for Joe Biden, that basically wraps the election. Now, that's the most optimistic case. The most pessimistic case is that voters worried that Biden's not doing enough good things and that Biden's too old are actually going to leak. They're going to hemorrhage away from Joe Biden, and Joe Biden's going to get absolutely crushed in 2024. It's just really hard to say that and seriously believe it based on everything that we're saying right now. If you look at an average of polls right now, remember, not every poll has Trump or Biden winning. It's a mix. The Real Clear Politics average right now is Trump plus 1.9. One of the really interesting things is, and I should have pulled the data for us, if you look at polling, today's November 30th, right? If you go back and you look at previous elections, you look at polling on November 30th of the year before the election, and you look at the eventual real results, frequently the real results vary from what the polling said on this day by 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes even 6 or 7 points if you look at the last 10 presidential elections. So even historically, you often have the results swinging from polling on this day by a handful of points. So this is not about polling is wrong. This is not about polling can't be trusted. It's about what does polling at this point, before we even have an official Republican nominee, tell us about what will be taking place 11 months from now. Now, I do think that it's extraordinarily important that we don't deny that in many of the polls, Trump really is winning. It's not, oh, just dismiss any poll Trump's winning in. I'm not taking that view. My view is, yes, Trump is absolutely winning by a little bit in a bunch of polls. In just about all of them, 15% of the electorate is saying they either don't know who they're going to vote for or they're going to vote for someone else. A lot of the people saying they're going third party when they see how close it's going to be, I believe are going to do the right thing. And they're going to say, I can't vote in a way that might help Trump become president. People who aren't sure if they're going to vote at all, I believe are going to get off the sidelines. But that's not to say the polls today aren't accurate. They're just a reflection of the stage at which we find ourselves. We should be more specific also and say, what isn't yet baked into the polling? Well, a continued strong economy isn't baked into the polling. That's good for Joe Biden. How are Trump's criminal trials and the impact that they will have on the electorate? When will we know that? Well, we're not going to know that until the criminal trials start. Once voters see Trump schlepping between criminal trials while trying to run a campaign, his hardcore supporters will stick with him, but many of these independents may bail. Either candidate dying is not baked in. You know, for all the talk about these being old candidates, statistically, there is a greater chance that one of them will die than if they were 45 years old. That would be a dramatic change. We don't know how motivating to the left it will be to see Trump officially become the nominee. So the polls should give us a sense that nothing should be considered a foregone conclusion. Every single one of us needs to vote rather than sit on the sidelines. And beyond that, it's about continuing to watch how events in the real world shape the polling. Am I worried? Of course, to some degree, I'm worried that an absolute dictatorial authoritarian will be back in office and completely unrestrained for 4 more years. That's a real concern to me. Do I think that this is a red alert scenario where it's obvious Biden's going to lose? I don't. I just don't. And we'll keep following the data. So I wrote another book for kids. The first book was Think Like a Detective. The point of the first book was to teach kids critical thinking, which Republicans don't want them to learn, because when kids learn critical thinking, they don't vote for Republicans. The new book is Think Like a Scientist. This is a fun adventure teaching kids the scientific method. Again, Republicans aren't big on kids learning the scientific method because when they do, they're less likely to fall for Republican lies about climate change and vaccines and so many other things. You can get the new book as well as the first one at davidpakman.com/book. This is part of the Adventures in Thinking series. Can you imagine that we're doing this? We are. davidpakman.com/book. 13,500 copies of the first book have sold. I'll bring you an update soon on sales for the second book. Think Like a Scientist, davidpakman.com/book.